Today is May the 3rd. Is it important to remember? Let's find out together as we study Numbers 33 to 36. Today, as we read through the Bible in a year, I'd like you to read Numbers 33 to 36. Here again, like we've seen in the last few chapters of Numbers, there's a hodgepodge of things that take place. But in the last 4 chapters, we seem to be focusing on a retrospective view of what's taken place. In chapter 33 of Numbers, we actually go through the different stages of Israel's journey. We follow them. It's laid out for us exactly the path that they took and the main things that happened to them as they walked through the wilderness. In chapter 33, we read of the importance of remembering where God has brought you from. Chapter 34, the Lord now looks forward, and he says to Moses, here are the boundaries of the land that I'm going to give you. And he lays out the boundaries from east to west, from north to south. He says, this is the promised land. It's important for us to remember. Israel remembered how God had brought them to this point. Then in chapter 34, the Lord says, now let's look forward. Here is the land that you will occupy, and here are the leaders of each one of your tribes. In chapter 35 and 36, just a few additional items are included. Each tribe is given a possession, a land that they can live in. But what about the tribe of Levi? It's not given a land, but it is given cities. There are cities specifically for Levites to live in. Now, these were not the only places Levites could live. They could live elsewhere, but these cities were their particular possession. It's kind of like Washington, D.C. is neither part of Virginia nor Maryland, but it's its own entity. These cities that the Levites would live in would be something different for them. Then, after talking about the Levites' cities, the Lord separates cities of refuge. If a man murders another man, his relatives may exact vengeance on the murderer. But what about the case of manslaughter? In that case, although relatives might want to kill a man, if that man goes to a city of refuge, he can live in that city for the rest of his life without fear of being killed. So cities of refuge are then separated and dispersed throughout Israelite territory. And finally, chapter 36. Way back in the middle of the book of Numbers, the daughters of Zelophehad came to Moses and said, our father had no sons. If his land is given away to other tribes, we'll have no inheritance for our father. His name will die. So Moses gave them his land. Now the daughters return and they say, apparently a couple of years older, they say, okay, the land has now followed with us. We have all married. The land will stay in the name of our husbands, and our father will still have no inheritance. So Moses says, you're right. Let's do something about that. And laws are made that will protect the land, the name of a man who has no sons, only daughters, in a society in which land passed down through sons. Exceptions were made when there were no sons. Now, these last two chapters, 35 and 36, are looking back, remembering what God has done, and then improving. Looking back and saying, the Levites have no land, so these cities will be theirs. Looking back and saying, people who have committed manslaughter, not intentional murder, are subject to vengeance by the family of the one killed. Oh, but let's make cities of refuge. And then land given to the daughter of a man who has no son will remain with that father's name so that his name doesn't die out. Is it important to remember? Yes, it is. It's important to remember because we can grow from that. Remembering helps us project forwards. Remembering helps us improve our actions on the basis of what we remember. Like, follow, and subscribe to this devotional on whatever platform you use to listen to it. Email your questions to us at questions@becomehope.com. Tomorrow, we'll ask the question, what are the keys to success?